The vote counting is almost done in today's landmark presidential election runoff in Turkey.
Firstly, it was quite close.
It is a 52-48 lead for President Erdogan. I just don't see how the opposition can surmount that hill anymore.
52% to 48% is by no means a comprehensive victory. It represents a divided electorate, a divided society.
Bay Kemal'e hesabını soracak.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has been in power for 20 years.
President Erdogan looks set to go for another term in office for a quarter of a century. It's an extraordinarily long time for any leader.
Öyleyse bugün kazanan sadece Türkiye'dir.
Hello and welcome. From the Times of India, I'm Miraj Shah. Today on Geoscope, the re-election of Mr. Erdogan as the President of Turkey and what that augurs for NATO, for the future of Turkey and the conflict in Ukraine. In the run-up to the national elections in 2023, Mr. Erdogan hit out at Western media after news reports emerged that were critical of his government. He rubbished claims of Russian interference in the elections and even accused US and its European allies of meddling in Turkey's elections. Mr. Erdogan has often been described as being autocratic in his governance and transactional in his foreign policy. Now, the Ukrainian conflict has splintered the world into blocs. In most cases, Turkey has voted with the West, but it hasn't imposed sanctions on Russia, let alone sever ties. Trade goes on between the two countries as normal.
And we have positive relations with Russia. In terms of our foreign trade volume, we've reached an ideal level with Russia.
The country has supplied drones to Ukraine, and yet at the same time, it has been collaborating with Russia on sensitive technology like nuclear technology. Its first nuclear power station, it's been put up in collaboration with Russia. Turkey also okayed the inclusion of Finland into NATO.
And both countries are making sure that Turkey can ratify our membership.
And yet, Mr. Erdogan has recently spoken about his special relationship with Putin. When Russia invaded Ukraine, its naval vessels blockaded Ukraine's ports, trapping 20 million tons of grain. Now, Turkey's intervention was crucial in lifting that blockade. That grain was exported, potentially preventing a food disaster in countries in Africa and elsewhere.
This Green Corridor initiative has been extended for another 2 months beginning on the 18th of May. How do you think it was possible? It was possible because of our special relationship with President Putin.
No country has been able to pull off a geopolitical balancing act as well as Turkey. One foot in the eastern camp, one foot in the western camp, and Mr. Erdogan likes to demonstrate to each side that he can influence the other.
We are proud to be instrumental in an initiative that will play a major role in solving the global food crisis that has been on the world's agenda for a long time.
That's what gives Turkey power. That's what gives Mr. Erdogan gravitas in the global order. Mr. Erdogan's campaign slogan was to make Turkey great again. Now, it's important to identify what he's referring to. It's relevant even if to situate Mr. Erdogan's political and personal beliefs and how those are likely to influence the course the country takes over the next 5 years. There's certainly no doubt on the greatness of Turkey's historical legacy. Located strategically between the East and the West, Istanbul, that was known as Constantinople till 1930, is one of the greatest cities in human history. It was the largest and wealthiest city in Europe between the 4th and the 13th centuries. In terms of technology, art and culture, as well as sheer size, Constantinople was unparalleled in Europe for over 1,000 years. Constantinople was also the center for Christian orthodoxy. The Hagia Sophia, a church built in 537 AD, was reported to be the home of Christendom's holiest relics. In 1453, Constantinople became part of the Ottoman Empire after being conquered by Sultan Mehmed II. Over the next 5 centuries, Constantinople remained the capital of the empire that at one point stretched over 3 continents. For sheer scope of influence and control, the Ottoman Empire has often been compared to the Roman Empire. The empire fell in 1923, Turkey became a republic in 1925, and Mustafa Kemal, a firm secularist, was elected as its leader. Today, he is known as the founder of the Republic of Turkey. Kemal's rule over Turkey marked an era of profound social, political, and religious reformation. He struck down Islamic religious code and ecclesiastical dress, replacing them with laws based on European systems of governance and Western garb. He closed religious schools, granted women legal equality, and pioneered the creation of a new Turkish script. These reforms resulted in both the creation of a new Turkish identity and the liberation of the Republic from its Ottoman roots. While Kemal died in 1938, his political beliefs and the system he had put in place continued to guide politics and society in Turkey over the next 6 decades. Unlike Mr. Kemal, who saw Turkey's Ottoman past as a shameful footnote in Turkic history, Mr. Erdogan ardently admires the Ottoman heritage and has expressed several verbal and visual displays of his admiration for the empire. And none has been more symbolic than the reclassification of the Hagia Sophia. The UNESCO World Heritage Site remained a church until 1453, when Ottoman Sultan Mehmed II converted it into a mosque. In 1935, under Kemal's instructions, it was reopened as a museum under the Secular Republic of Turkey. But finally, in 2020, the Council of State, led by President Erdogan, reclassified the Hagia Sophia as a mosque. He's also been keen to position himself as the leader of Muslims in the world. While addressing the 6th Religious Council meeting of the Presidency of Religious Affairs in Ankara in November 2019, Erdogan charged that Muslim countries look for solutions in Western capitals for their problems instead of reaching out to their Muslim brothers and sisters for help. For now, though, Mr. Erdogan has to fight fires on both internal and foreign fronts. A foreign debt reserve crisis is looming. The country's inflation is up at 44%, and Mr. Erdogan's unorthodox economic policies are not helping. The government is also yet to redeem itself from its mishandling of the earthquake. Now, Mr. Erdogan's government has been blamed for institutionalizing corruption in the economy, especially in the construction sector, and that has relevance because thousands of these buildings, which should have survived, collapsed in the earthquake, causing casualties that could have been prevented. On foreign policy, there's great pressure on Mr. Erdogan to okay Sweden's inclusion into NATO, and that might depend on US finally agreeing to provide F-16 planes to Turkey. Any future negotiations between Russia and Ukraine that are mediated by Turkey will position the country as a bridge between the East and the West. That will also feed into Mr. Erdogan's populist nationalist narrative of Turkey being this great world power. On another note, in 1914, the Ottoman Empire was already in decline when the First World War began. But that decline was fast-tracked because it picked the wrong side to ally with. Mr. Erdogan has been successfully able to walk that tightrope, thread the needle, so to speak, between NATO and Russia. What he's likely to do if he has to pick a side remains to be seen.